Okay, looks like we got the notification the meeting's being recorded, so we can get this party started. Uh, Today, I'm Vance Tong, your lovely host, because we've had our president and our vice president are both absent today, so they went into the depths and said, Vance, you get to do it. So let's go around the room, do some introductions. Karina?
Good morning. I'm Karina Copeland with the Office of Economic Development, Clackamas County.
Eric?
Good morning, Eric Estep. I work at McDonald Miller Facility Solutions.
Lynn?
Hi, everyone. Lynn Wallace, economist with the Oregon Employment Department.
Cindy?
Good morning, everyone. Cindy Moore with the Clackamas County Office of Economic Development.
William?
William Gifford from Oregon City, an online entrepreneur and co-founder director of the Oregon City Business Alliance.
Shannon?
I am Shannon Eilis, and I am a local business owner and also chair of the Westland EDC.
Mr. Savas?
Good morning, everyone. Paul Savas, Clackamas County Commissioner.
Sarah?
Good morning, Sarah Ekman with the Department of Transportation and Development with Clackamas County.
Valerie?
Good morning. I am Valerie Chapman. I'm the vice chair of the Oak Grove Community Council, just sitting in to see what's going on with the EDC.
Samara?
Good morning, Samara Phelps. I'm Executive Director for Clackamas County Tourism, Oregon's Mount Hood Territory. Thanks for having me.
Stacia?
Well, hi, I'm Stacia Hernandez, Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde.
Brian?
Good morning, Brian Fuentes, Clackamas Workforce Partnership.
Jim?
Jim with the Clackamas County Tourism, Oregon's Mount Hood Territory.
And Christina?
Good morning, Christina Fadenracht, and I am a policy advisor in the Board of Commissioners office. Thank you. Just sitting here taking notes.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for getting up and joining us this morning. We're going to kick it off with, I'm not John Lamott, just so you know, the agenda says that, but it's not me. And let's see if we have any public communications. Going once, going twice. Sold. Commissioner updates next.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for participating and volunteering your time to be part of this committee. I have had a very busy year, and as you know, there's a couple of meetings I have not attended, and probably some meetings I had to leave a little bit early, like I will today, because of things just being stacked on top of each other. This transportation issues have been pretty well dominating a lot of my work. But I thought today I would actually start with some of the things that are going on around the county, maybe that people aren't not aware of, that are of probably interest to the EDC. One of those is that I've been working as the liaison and working with some members in the Mount Hood community, government camp community, with regard to something called, there's two projects going on. One's Vision Around the Mountain, and one is a planning area grant, if you will, FLAP grant. Has been granted to look at parking, restroom areas, facilities in the government camp area to get better access to the community. Also working on some transit options up there to expand transit and facilities up there as well. So there's a lot actually going on at the mountain right now, probably more than I can recall in the last 12 years. So a lot of economic opportunities, tourism opportunities as well. The second thing that's going on, there's been a lot of discussion around, and they kind of tie together a little bit, and that's short-term rentals. The county commission's been, over the years, been working on this for quite a long time, and hopefully trying to get that back on track. We've been working with some professionals who do this for a living and an industry, in how to get more regulations and less negative impacts to local community members, essentially, for short-term rentals. It's a unique industry. It's not quite aligned or like motel hotels. It has a unique element to it. So there is economic benefits to that. And hopefully we can get something back, a new proposal back on the table here pretty soon. So those are just a couple things I think that would be of interest to you all. And of course, on the transportation side of things, the tolling conversation continues. Last Monday here, just a couple of days ago, we had our second, what's now called a new committee called the Regional Tolling Advisory Committee. It's newly forming. We really haven't established, this is ODOT led. We really haven't established exactly what our role is, but a lot of lively discussion and a lot of interest, and actually quite a bit of alignment on trying to actually understand and put forth something that addresses, and this is where we have agreement on some of the negative impacts, which are kind of overwhelming and really, frankly, have not been resolved as of yet. As you know, construction on I-205, the Abernathy Bridge, is underway. That is all that's underway. Some people think they're actually building that for the tolling facilities, but that's not the case at this time. It's simply the seismic and the widening of the bridge. So lots of exciting stuff. I'm happy to take any questions, but that's my report for this morning.
I have a question. Commissioner, thanks very much, by the way, for being there yesterday at the OCBA. My question was your thing one regarding the tourism on the mountain. Oh, that's pretty good. Tourism on the mountain. The grant program, who's funding that?
Well, the FLAP grant is a federally funded program, so that I believe they have won that. And so now they'll be doing some master planning and visioning. And Samara's here with us today. She can expand on that as well. And so is Jim Austin. So they're pretty well connected.
Excuse me, are you saying flat grant or plat grant? What?
FLAP, FLAP.
FLAP, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And those funds are federal land access grants. And so they're all dedicated towards programs and infrastructure that help increase or sustain access to public lands.
Good to know. Thank you.
Shannon, I see your hand up.
Yes, oops, thank you. I wanted to know a little bit more about the short-term rentals. I've seen what's happened in Lincoln City, and now it's all embroiled in lawsuits. And so I'm just curious, are they looking to expand the ability to have short-term rentals, or are they looking to minimize the number of rentals that are there?
Well, if the they you're asking about is Clackamas County, I'm not sure that we're totally in alignment on the board as to that. So currently, technically, short-term rentals are not legal in Clackamas County. There's no real definition for them. So we wanted to, number one, accommodate the industry, but at the same time, have some rules or regulations that kind of keep the neighborhood issues at a minimal. And so there's very little negative impacts. We're experiencing the negative impacts both locally, believe it or not, here where I live in Oak Grove, as well as up on the mountain, especially in other areas. So the challenge is for maybe the other counties that are on the coast, the challenge for the coastal communities, or maybe even up on the mountain, is that you end up with a lot of properties that are for rent or for short-term rentals, but very few people that actually live daily and work daily in the community. So they're more tourist-based. So they don't really have, number one, a tax base. Number two, they are subtracting from the housing inventory. And so the workers in the community don't have any affordable workforce housing to live in. So that creates challenges, and we're experiencing that on the mountain. We're hearing from a lot of the industries up there that the folks up there the workers can't afford to live up there. And so that's really creating a need for transportation, transit, and all those other things. So there has been discussion of putting a cap on how many short-term rentals. So I think I touched on 2 of your questions, if I heard them right, Shannon. Does that cover it?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Any other questions for Commissioner Savas?
Great, thank you all.
Okay, thanks. Moving on, Samara and Jim. Are you ready for your presentation?
Gladly, yeah. Thanks for having us. We were asked to come in today and just wanted to give you guys a kind of a pulse check on where we're at as a Department of Tourism here with the county, and also some industry information. I've had the chance to be in front of the commission multiple times, but it's been several years since we've been here, and it will be no surprise that there's a lot that has happened in that couple of years since we've been here. So I am going to go ahead and do a share screen and share some slides, if that's all right with folks. So if you have questions or you want to stop and dive into something, please shout it out, because I won't be able to see everybody's hand raises or faces. And Vance, if you can help with that as well, I would appreciate that.
Can do.
Right. Great. Well, again, thanks for having us. I'm Samara Phelps. I'm the Executive Director for Tourism. And then Jim Austin, who's with us, leads our Development and Community Relations side. So he's also someone that many of our stakeholders and partners here within Clackamas County work with on a regular basis. Why are we here in front of you? Tourism is a part of economic development. That's really at the heart of our mission as Tourism for Clackamas County. And so when in 2019 was last time we did our resident surveys around tourism, and across all 3 regions of the county, the mountain, the urban areas, and the valley, 85% of residents did see tourism as a positive impact on economic vitality here in Clackamas County. We also support a lot of local businesses, local operators. That's the heart of kind of our stakeholder group who we're working with on a regular basis. And the intersection with all of our values as residents of Clackamas County is that a strong tourism program really does enhance the quality of life. A great place to visit is a great place to live and to work. And where we really find ourselves more and more intersecting is around this language of an experience economy, of the things that you want to do as a resident are the same things that a visitor wants to do when they come to visit. If that's walk a trail, visit a museum, have a beer, wine taste, those are the kinds of experiences that visitors are contributing to that also make them more available to you as a resident in Clackamas County. It's also tourism is often considered to be the welcome mat to a community for economic development. People are aware of a community based on what they have seen from a leisure or a personal side, from a destination representation. So they have seen publications, they've seen websites, they've seen articles about visiting, whether it's a community like West Lynn or it's a broader idea of a place like Mount Hood Territory in that broader sense. So it really is providing an avenue to build reputation and awareness for our community and it being a great place to be. Here in Clackamas County, these are the numbers for visitor spending, because that's really the best way for a visitor to contribute to the economic vitality of the community is the dollars that they bring into community. And as you can see, the bar graph on the left is visitor spending in millions here for Clackamas County specifically. And we were over 500 million in 2019. For the obvious reasons of the pandemic, 2020 was a significant drop. We were down almost 50%, 40 some percent. in terms of visitor spending within our communities. And then we saw a really strong recovery as people got more familiar with how to operate within the pandemic, but still we had restrictions and a great deal of uncertainty. So visitor spending in 2021 had not recovered to that pre-pandemic level. So the baseline that the industry is using is really using that 2019 number because it was the last full year of visitor spending, visitor industry activity that was before the pandemic and impacted by the pandemic. And then if you look at by commodity, where do people spend money? This pie graph is the graph here for Clackamas County. And so you'll see this light blue section is in the accommodations, but the orange and the gray are various kinds of food services like a coffee shop or a restaurant in orange, and gray is the food stores. So the vast amount of money that's being spent is being spent in food or food related commodities. But then
Samara?
these, yes.
Oh, sorry. Eric
Please.
has his hand up
Oh,
here.
great.
So
Thanks.
Yeah, just a quick 2 questions. Is this for Clackamas County as a whole or just the Mount Hood territory? And then 2, how is visitor spending as opposed to resident spending differentiated? How do they determine that?
Yeah, great questions. So we are branded as Mount Hood territory. The geography of Mount Hood territory is all of Clackamas County. So I use those interchangeably. When we're talking to consumers that are outside of Clackamas County, we use that Mount Hood territory brand and that naming. And when we're inside the county, we use Clackamas County because that means something to folks that live here. But the further you get from home, the less the county boundaries matter. So this is for all of Clackamas County, not just for the mountain. And then there is a research firm called Dean Runyon, and Dean Runyon does a whole slew of data that they collect from visitor surveys as well as economic data. They do business reporting for gross revenues. They have various sources that come through. So these are from the state numbers that are considered basically the best practice for visitor spend. And they're, if you go to industry.traveloregon.com, you can access all of these for every county in the state. And they do separate out, they do a total travel industry spend, which would include the money that you spend if you're buying an airline ticket, or if you're going to that restaurant, if you're the one that's out doing a travel related activity. So there's a big number, and then they break it out for folks that are visitors. And typically for the definition of visitor is someone who's traveled 50 miles or more, or is staying overnight, but it's typically 50 miles or more is how that's determined. Did that get to your, okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Gifford has a question.
Great.
Yes, thank you. And Samara, perhaps like Lynn Wallace, when I see statistical graphs, I go nuts. Love it. The visitor spending part of this graph, I wonder how has that been adjusted by population, increase or decrease as a percentage of that population?
So the visitor spending, is the total gross from visitors as a whole. Visitors inside Clackamas County at any given time range between 4 and 5% of the population. Is that getting to what you're asking?
Yeah, perhaps if I said, if there are more people, should we in the county, in the state, in the country, if there's a population growth, should we expect more tourism?
Yes, with all the caveats that would come with demographics. If there is more population that has travel accessible to them, yes, you would see that growth. So
yeah, so assuming that as a baseline, then there's nothing really that's showing the population increase or decrease over these years as well.
Correct, there is not.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is, and this is also just based in current day dollar. So when we look at next year's numbers, especially with the rapid inflation that we've had, there will be more kind of nuance to trending these against each other. They'll need to
Sure.
be adjusted for the inflation, among other things.
Sure. Thank you.
It's a pretty straight gross type number that we're working with, not a very refined number at this point.
Okay.
Any other questions? Great. And then the last thing that I want to point out is the dark blue piece of this pie is a really broad category that encompasses actually a lot of our partners and our businesses. It's the arts, entertainment, and recreation. So this includes if you bought a ticket to the theater, it includes if you rented a kayak from an outfitter, all of if you went bowling at Bullwinkle's. All of those things are lumped into that one slice of the pie for these assessments. All right, and then this is earnings in Clackamas County. So these are for the employee. They are wages paid out. They are also earning disbursements to owners. And so earnings in Clackamas County, as you can see, took a dip in the pandemic as well. We didn't have quite the same significance of dip. And then in 2021, we're starting to see that come back. As everyone's probably aware, this is also a very gross number that is giving you a sense of what's going on, but hides several things, which include that for our workforce issues, a lot of people were paying more to their employees during this time as well. So the right graph is your employment numbers. So these are the numbers of jobs. And in 2020, we had just over 5,000. I think the last time I was in front of you guys was in May of 2020, when we had actually lost 5,000 jobs in hospitality in Clackamas County. But there was a pretty quick recovery for those jobs to start to come back. And in 2021, we found ourselves at around 6,000 jobs in tourism and hospitality. So well on a path to recovery. And we're all seeing, like many places, that we actually have more jobs available than we have folks who are filling them right now. We've been slower to recover to that full employment at the tourism and hospitality side. I would also like to point out that 2019 number is significantly higher than the 2018 number. So we've kind of been waiting to see how that data trended, and then the pandemic hit. So we look at someplace between 6,000 and 7,000 as return to full employment in the tourism industry for Clackamas County. Any questions on this one? Great.
Samara, sorry, just a quick question. Are you saying that it's increasing, but we're not there yet? We're not completely back up?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, we are not completely back. All right, and so tourism, your Department of Tourism, which is what Jim and I work on every day. The mission of tourism in Clackamas County is to enhance the quality of life for residents through optimizing the impacts of the tourism industry. And we are empowered to do that through the guidance of the Tourism Development Council and funded through the transient room tax. So if you stay in a hotel or a motel or a short-term rental or a campground, there is a Clackamas County transient room tax that's applied to that. And then that money goes to finance department here at Clackamas County, and a portion of that comes to the Tourism Development Council, who is our board. They're a 9-member board appointed by the Board of County Commissioners to oversee this work. And that work includes the development and marketing of the destination. And that includes things that you're probably used to seeing, like websites, visitors guides. It is also a lot of partner and on the ground work to do development work, program work directly with the partners. And to use a Jimism, making that less abstract in Jim's, the way Jim can do it, is that marketing is into selling the pie that is our destination to potential visitors. So they're really focused on those external potential visitors. They're great, more than 50 miles away. And then development is here at work in Clackamas County, working on making a bigger pie, making different pies. So making different experiences, more opportunities, more access to what makes Clackamas County a unique destination. And then packaging that into different partnerships, itineraries, collaborations between our partners here in the county to build that infrastructure so that every dollar that comes into the county is going to support our local businesses as much as possible. So what we own and what you're probably familiar with seeing are our website, which is mountainhoodterritory.com, travel planner, which is the Mountain Hood Territory Travel Planner magazine. And then we also do the Things to Do map, among many other publications and direct pieces that we own and we control the voice of. But all of that work that you see is kind of marketing communication channels is being done with this lens. We apply the lens of considering the visitor, the resident, the partner, and the place in everything that we do to work towards that goal of optimizing the positive impacts of tourism for our residents' quality of life. So visitors are a very important audience for us. If we're not offering something and an experience that they want to have, they are not going to be interested in coming here. We also want that visitor to visit in a way that is in a line with how we operate here in Clackamas County, to care for the space, care for the businesses. We want the residents to receive those benefits. How is a resident impacted by us promoting a certain area, us inviting guests in by bicycle or by car or by bus? What are the impacts to the residents? And then partners are a really big category that includes from the local operator who's running the coffee shop to the National Forest Service, to you guys as the Economic Development Commission. The partners are really those that are working together with us. And then the place is about the environment, and that includes our built environment as well as our natural environment, but what it feels like to be in that place and how the actual geography is taken care of. So we use this as a best practice for everything that we do, and it comes out of the, we did an assessment for our destination in 2019 as a Global Sustainable Tourism Council assessment using the UN standards for what sustainable tourism is. And this consideration for these 4 different audiences is a critical piece of making sure that our work continues to align with those best practices. So we take those best practices, and this is in 2022 when we did our stakeholder outreach and we did our retreat with our board. These 4 outcomes are really what all of our work is striving for right now. And these came from in work that we did in 2020 and 2021 when we were a much smaller organization because of reduced funding during the pandemic. There was identified 4 issues that we needed to make sure we were continuing to address. And then we've transformed those into these outcomes. And the outcomes are the colored quarters in the middle. And then we do that work with the lenses that are around the outside. That visitor, resident, partner, place lens is applied to everything. Working on being a diverse, equitable, and inclusive destination, and sustainability. So those are the environment that's applied to all of these. And then the first will be no surprise, but it's to support tourism industry and assets in recovery while responding to evolving conditions. And when this first started for us, there was a lot that it was pandemic, and then it was wildfire and pandemic, and then it was wildfire, pandemic, and ice storm, and it proceeded from there. So really being able to be nimble and responsive is a strong value that we've gotten from our board and our partners, that we as a department need to be able to respond to what is coming at us. We can't be, this is the plan that we set 4 years ago and we're just plugging away at that plan. We need to be able to be responsive to their needs for the existing assets right now. And then the second is to enhance the experience and awareness of Mount Hood territory as a desirable, safe, and inclusive destination for visitors and residents. That is a lot of perception and communication work with the visitor. It's a lot of perception and communication work with partners, as well as developing programs and experiences and assets here in the county that are both keep our partners safe. Simple example comes across as being the like when there's a fire ban in place, right? That we're not going to be having campfires every time you camp in Clackamas County. And so the enhance the experience and the awareness does work both for our residents and for our visitors, because there was a extended period there where there was a lot of concern that because we'd had the Riverside fire specifically, that it was going to really deteriorate our brand as a place that is safe to come to. And then as we started to do this work, we realized that it intersected with a lot of other safety and best practices on how to visit as well. I see a hand up.
Lynn has her hand up.
Yes, Samara, I was just wondering what your relationship is with the different cities that have their own tourism departments.
Yeah, that's great. So that is Jim has a very direct, almost daily relationship with the local tourism groups. And if you look on the right side of the screen where it says our priority tactics, leveraging partnerships is the number one way that we get our work done. And those leads in the communities are invaluable to us. They're the ones who say, okay, here's what's happening on the ground. Here's what we have underway. And we really see our work as to help amplify that work that's coming out of the local communities. So we work directly with them, and they also have a chance to provide input on our pieces. So like that travel planner that was on the screen, the community pages are all written with our voice, but the input of the communities about what their priorities are for inclusion and how their community is represented. So that's a great question. It's there's a lot of layers to how this tourism promotion and development happens. And we are continually working on systems and mechanisms to keep those relationships strong.
Thank you.
Great. And then the other two outcomes that we're driving towards is number 3. And number 3 is really to drive visitors to identified areas as informed by the unique needs of the individual tourism assets. So that could be an individual business, a specific location, or it could be broader, like a community or a region of the county. So very much goes to Lynn's question. What is it that's needed in Molalla and what's needed at Government Camp? As you heard from some of what Commissioner Savas shared about the work that's happening up there, very different work to support the tourism industry in those communities. And so then all that work is done to optimize the positive impacts and mitigate the negative. And so we're working on that balance through those direct relationships with the community. And Jim has a couple of examples that he's going to share of how that work happens. And then the fourth thing on here is to continue to develop our organizational resiliency for effective tourism leadership. And so that's kind of the nuts and bolts of how we staff, how we build up our capacity, how we do our budgeting, how we distribute funds and make strategic investments. And when we put together the work plan for 2022 with these overarching 2 to 3 year goals that you see in the circle, the thing that was very clear to us from our partners is when we were doing this work in early 2022 for planning, is that we needed to support existing assets and businesses. So the operators that were here needed the support. So there was reduced capacity on all kinds of levels to just keep businesses going and operating, and that marketing was one of the areas that we could really help support. And then that last one is to leverage partnerships. That there was such an interest in helping uplift work that was already happening instead of trying to create a bunch of new things. And so what that looks like in terms of marketing is we have a more robust co-op marketing program than we've ever had, where we help buy down the costs or provide rebates to our partners for the marketing that they're doing for their local business, and through vetted channels. And it's really been a very positive experience for us to be able to zero in on that direct support to businesses. Jim's team goes out and meets weekly with, they kind of work their way down our partner list to meet with partners and say, okay, what's happening on the ground, what's needed, and then we bring it back to develop the programs that respond to those needs. And with that, I'm going to let Jim take over and tell you about a couple of programs, examples of what working towards those 4 outcomes looks like on the ground.
Let's see. Yes, I'm on. Okay, excellent. Some examples of our leveraged efforts and partnerships, how we support local businesses and local communities. One example, it's not on here. The Esticated Field Guide is one that we worked on with the Esticated Chamber. The Esticated community suffered significantly from COVID. They had prolonged difficulty because of the prolonged closure of the Highway 224 corridor, the Clackamas River corridor. So we worked with the chamber. We helped them create an Esticated field guide to draw attention to the community, the things that were open, the unique offerings in the area. We use our resources to secure coverage on COIN, create the guide, distribute the guide, promote the guide. We promoted it through our social channels. We got a lot of coverage for that. Those are the lanes that we operate in well. Drawing attention and getting eyes on websites and getting media coverage is something that we do very well. So we were able to help create that and promote that. Another example is we've up-leveled some efforts from our business recovery centers. North Clackamas Chamber did a Bites and Brews to support local businesses. We saw that, there we go. We saw that they were soliciting for restaurants, tap houses, and entertainment businesses such as bowling alleys, Bullwinkles. I mentioned Bullwinkles earlier. So we reached out to them to find out how we could support them in up-leveling the Bites and Brews promotion efforts. So we secured banner ads across Oregon Live, Facebook, Instagram. We reposted and we did posts on social media. We got Oregonian coverage. We got coverage in Pamplin, some coverage in COIN, K2, and others. Another example of a business recovery effort, which addresses one of our critical issues of COVID recovery and wildfire recovery, is Wander Willamette, the Westland Lake Oswego Business Recovery Center did a similar program to promote local businesses. So we work closely with our partners. You were asking how we work with partners. We worked with them on messaging to find out what they wanted to promote, and then we used our resources and expertise and relationships to promote and elevate and get a wider audience to these efforts. Yep. And then, Samara, is that our FAM tour from yesterday? Yes, it is. Okay. We also support our efforts, support our businesses, our communities from FAM tours, doing FAM tours. FAM tours we'll invite visitor center staff, frontline staff, chamber staff, frontline staff from hotels and concierges from local area hotels. We'll bring them out on a tour around the county. We'll do these several times a year. Sometimes they're organized around themes like seasonal. We did a FAM tour yesterday of South County partners and sites and attractions. So this year it was fall harvest, pumpkin patches, Christmas trees, getting ready for Christmas trees. We took a group down to just outside of West Lynn, Canby, and Molalla. We visited Yesteryear Farm, Triskelly Farm. We went across and highlighted the Canby Ferry. Not a lot of people know we have a ferry, so we took the bus, just barely fit over the Canby Ferry. We did a downtown walking tour with the Canby Economic Development Department leading a walking tour of downtown businesses, talking about what's going on in Canby. We had lunch at a local restaurant, went to a great place called Artomatic. They offer an array of classes and art activities for visitors. So we had people doing projects there, and then we went out to Molalla, visited a heritage site, went to Molalla River Brewing. Oh, and we went to, if you're not familiar, we took partners to TMK Creamery, which is they've got a great story. It's a small local dairy. They do cheeses. They make single cow cheeses. All of what we do is try to find the stories that make things unique and interesting, and sell those to people, sell that messaging, promote unique offerings. And they also have something very unique there. They're making something called calcohol, which they found a way to use the whey, which is a byproduct of the cheese making process, and fermenting that and turning it into a vodka-like spirit. So they're making vodka from the byproduct of cheese, which is unique. It's the only one. They're the only folks doing this in the country. It's pretty unique. And pardon me. So the goal of these FAM tours is really to bring people out. We can send lists of our new businesses, what they have to offer. We can send lists to local hotels, but the goal here is to have them experience it, and then talk to the business owners, because it gels more. There's more of a connection. We kind of operate off of the general theme behind the FAM tours is that a picture's worth 1,000 words, but an experience is worth 1,000 pictures. So it's much more meaningful. It creates deeper relationships and is more memorable. So yeah, and we'll do those several times a year.
Yeah, and when we did our stakeholder outreach over the course of the last couple years, the FAM tours were top of the programs that people wanted to come back. And so we were actually very excited that Jim and his team were able to take out a group in person. This has been our first in-person FAM since the pandemic, but we've been doing virtual FAMs, which we actually received a Best Idea Award from the Destination Organization Association for, because people were so hungry to know what was happening at other sites, right? Like when you're talking to somebody, you're exactly right, Jim, that it's about that experience that brings it to life for the partners. So really, really exciting work. Our partners appreciate the opportunity to highlight their work, but everyone who's on the bus really gets a slew of experiences that we know that they talk about and share with visitors.
And each one of our sites, for each one of our itineraries, we hand everybody, they have the schedule, they have the contact information, and then we also give them a social media sheet, and we encourage them throughout the day as we visit partner sites to post on social media, which Jared reposts on our Instagram channel as well. So
great, thanks for that,
great.
Jim.
Yeah.
And then we've had some questions during the presentation, but a couple of things that I wanted to bring up. The short-term rentals has already been discussed. So that's current county work that's underway. Happy to discuss that more if people want. And then wanted to share with you guys what we hear from our operators right now in terms of post-summer season, the things that they're really struggling and uncertain about. And workforce continues to be a big part of that. We see reduced hours, especially at our restaurants and attractions, to adjust. You know, they can only be open as much as they have people. So we're seeing some reduced hours in some businesses because of the workforce issue. But increased wages have definitely helped create more stability for the workforce than what we were seeing this time last year. Business travel still is a big question. How will people be traveling for work in this new norm. And so for our event spaces and for our hotels, this is a big question. We're hearing that people are booking for 2023, but we're also hearing that fluctuates a lot, whether people are coming or not. Our outfitters have really talked a lot about kind of the after effects of the supply chain issues. There was high demand for outdoor recreation equipment during the pandemic, and you were encouraged to order up, and you couldn't get things for months and months. And so when you could get them, you got a lot of them, and now there's less demand and a lot of supply. So they have a lot of stock. So they're kind of sitting back. You won't see as much spending for the retailers until they can get that product out the door. And then, like for all of us, the recession looms quite large. Vance.
So I just was curious if you could tell me, or tell everyone actually, how Clackamas County compares with regards to the short-term rental restriction to other neighboring counties. I mean, are we outliers here, or are there similar restrictions in Multnomah, Washington, other neighboring counties?
Yeah, I don't think there's a community in the developed world that isn't dealing with this question in some way. So we are in no way an outlier. And I think we're kind of and Commissioner Savas has done a lot of work and a lot of outreach around this, so he might provide context for this, but I would say we fall in the middle of the road. We're trying to be very conscientious to figure out what works for our community and what works for the industry. And having not implemented a registration system, there are certainly, as we're given examples from the coast, there's communities here in Oregon that have those things in place, and now we're learning from what's in place. So in that way, I think we're kind of middle of the road, that we haven't implemented it yet, but we're consciously working on it.
I can speak to that if you like. I'm a local realtor, so I end up working with short-term rental clients who are looking for those, and have looked at a lot at the different regulations. Most cities, incorporated cities, have some kind of restriction in place where you have to either live on the property for a certain number of days, or you have a separate, either basement or separate building, but you're living on the property. The area of Mount Hood is different because it's also a tourist area. So that's where it has been very lax. And I'm hoping that they go the way of, there are communities on the coast that have a good system in place that are balancing the need for people to come and stay and the needs of the neighborhoods.
Yeah, what I will add, what's unique about Clackamas compared to Washington County and Multnomah County is that most of the tourist facilities, the ski resorts, are mostly in Clackamas County, with the exception of Mount Hood Meadows, which is in Hood River County, but very, very, very close to Clackamas County. So we have that tourist type of thing. And we also have a lot of farm ag areas as well, and a lot more, I would say, playground. I mean, because of our rich farming and our rivers, we have a far more vast forest, natural resource base than the other two counties, because they're more urbanized. So it is a little bit unique what we're trying to tackle here, but I think Shannon and Samara kind of summed it up pretty well, and I'm very optimistic that we're going to get in a good place with this, to where we make it legal, we keep it, we keep the neighborhood impacts down to a minimum, because frankly that is going to benefit us, benefit all of us, if we can make this cooperative, and then also realize the revenue benefits for tourism, the revenue benefits for all the industries. There is a multiplier, as was shared earlier by Samara's presentation. So we're excited, but it's a very complex land use, economic, and budgetary issue that we're trying to tackle. And Multnomah County did something unique. They added a fee, or the tax, to their tourism base for their TRT tax, tourism collection tax, to fund their short-term rental program. So that's something that we're also going to look at and possibly model after. Lots to talk about on this one, but it can run away with itself. It's so complex. It shouldn't be, but it is. Thank you.
Samara, Jim has his hand up. And now he doesn't, or just trying to figure out how to lower it. Lynn has her hand up though.
Yes, just a quick question. I'm just wondering how B&Bs kind of fit into this picture. Because I noticed there's a couple new B&Bs in around my area within a mile or so. I'm just wondering if you could, give a little insight into that.
Yeah, B&Bs are separate from the short-term rental discussion because there's a proprietor on site in the way that that's handled. So there are land use and regulations that already cover the B&B side of the equation. So what we do with short-term rentals won't change that structure for the B&B. B&Bs were slower to recover with the pandemic, but they continue to be a vital part of the mix that we have here in Clackamas County for lodging.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Vance and Cindy, I just wanted to chime in. First of all, thank you very much to Samara and Jim. And just to let the EDC know that the Office of Economic Development is very closely aligned with our tourism partners, and in many ways have opportunities, not only that we're currently working on, but in the future as we look to support businesses in that space even stronger with some of the ways in which the Board of County Commissioners are using lottery dollars to support economic development activities. And so more to come on that, but just to let the group know that we do have a very close alignment with tourism and are happy to support their efforts as well. And if there is anything, Samara and Jim, that you need or want to bring forward to the EDC around policy or support, that would be helpful, the door is always open for you to come back and have that conversation with the EDC.
Great, always appreciate the partnership. And the door is open to the TDC as well. So always happy to work with you guys.
Dynamite presentation, thanks.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for all the time, guys. Appreciate you spending the morning with us.
Thank you, Samara and Jim. And there's nothing further. We'll move on. EDC Chair and Clackamas County staff updates. So Cindy Moore, tell us about your staff updates.
No new staff updates for today from the Office of Economic Development, but more to come in the future on that. We are still a lean and mean team of Karina and Eileen and Sarah and I. We have, I can't remember if we touched on this in the last meeting, but the Business and Community Services as a department is now part of the Development and Transportation Department. So that's probably the biggest staff change organizationally, but nothing really that the public would know differently as far as how we execute our work plan. So that's probably the biggest organizational change. Sarah, anything you want to add on that?
No, yes, we're, let's see, about 4 months into having merged with the Department of Transportation and Development, and it's, I think, a great opportunity across the board, and we're excited to continue to be working on just getting better on things where we can, leveraging our resources, putting our heads together, and looking for ways to do things across departments. So it gives us more opportunities to do that. So nothing else. Thanks, Cindy.
Okay. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
I think that's maybe one thing to.
Oh, yeah, we should probably talk about the report. I've got so many windows open on my computer, it's not even funny. So you should have all received the Clackamas County Economic Development Commission annual report. And I've Cindy, could you remind me what the deadline is for getting comments on that back?
We'd like to ultimately submit the annual report by December. So let's see, we are at October 26th. Karina, how does the next couple weeks sound? 3 weeks or so? Sound good?
So have everything to Karina before you go on Thanksgiving.
That is a great deadline. Thank you. I just got a note that looks like I froze for a bit there. So sorry if my comments were jagged. So yes, the annual report would be the one thing to talk about. And then the recruitment, and we touched on that a little bit, but that press release will go out. I would encourage all of you to consider your network. And if you need some support in telling the why around the EDC, we would be happy to do that from a staff perspective, but you're really our best messengers. And look forward to the opportunity to not only work with many of you in the next year as your terms will continue, but to bring in new faces to the EDC as well.
Okay,
So,
Lynn.
so Cindy, I'm just wondering, just for clarification, what, is there an ask with the report? What, is there anything you need us to do or?
Great question. So the way that the annual report is structured was more of a reflection of what and who the EDC heard from, but I know Chair Lamont is working on a message from the chair. If there were, testimonials or comments that you'd like to provide, we would welcome all comments to make it as robust as we can from all the perspectives of the EDC members. So yeah, I think if you have something specific you want to share, or if you take a look at the report as a whole and you see edits or maybe things we can tweak, all comments are welcome.
Okay. Any other comments about the annual report? All righty then. Well, if there's nothing further, then I am going to adjourn this meeting and resume my career aspirations of being America's favorite TV game show host. But William has a question.
Well, you asked for good of the order. I don't know that everyone heard me at the beginning announce the fact that Oregon City has a new city commissioner by appointment. This is a 2-year appointment. It's pretty unusual that Mike Mitchell is going to be our new city commissioner and will be sworn in on November 2nd.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Enjoy your Wednesday, and we'll see you all in the new year.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, I had one. Karina, could you make sure that Samara could share that presentation out to the members?
Yes, absolutely.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sorry, Samara, I didn't see you there with all the little windows. So.
What is a live transcription for the meeting? There's a notice that popped up in the middle of my screen that says request that the host enable live transcription for the meeting.
That's just something like well, we don't use that since we record the meeting, but what the live transcription is if you use it, it's just verbatim everything that is said.
Oh, and that's like if you had subtitles on too, that you could get a transcription of what are them trying to understand what we're about. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I've tried it. It's very hard to follow because there's no, it just runs on and on and on, and there's no stopping, you know what I mean?
Got it. Thank you.
All right.
Have
Thanks,
a good
everybody.
Thanksgiving. See ya.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.